Now it's time for the research project. You will do a research about linguistics or the literature on colonialism or post-colonialism. Colonialism means that the writers were active during a time where they colonized the countries, and it's written from a colonizer's perspective. However, the post-colonial writings, they are written by people who have been colonized. You're not supposed to read entire books, only extracts and tell what the difference is. How about the structure then in the project essay? You need to have a title, of course. First, you have these points. You say 1. Introduction. You present the topic. 1.1, the background. 1.2, the aim and the research question. 2, the methodology. And if you go to the right, you will find some really good links to how to understand what methodology really means. So what is the difference between quantitative and qualitative research? The quantitative data is numbers-based, countable or measurable. The quantitative data tells us how many, how much, or how often in calculations. This is what you will find in the research reports, mostly. The qualitative data, on the other hand, is interpretation-based, descriptive, and related to language. This means the linguistics projects. Qualitative data can help us to understand why, how, or what happened behind certain behaviors. Then you present the results. And the results, remember, the facts should be placed before the discussion, and it's never allowed to comment upon the results before the discussion. Now, before the discussion and conclusion, in the discussion, you're only allowed to discuss what you have found in your results. And in the conclusion, of course, you can mention personal experiences or what you think. But in the discussion, you cannot start thinking that, well, my brother used to do this when he spoke another language, or my children are bilingual or something. And because you need to refer to scholarly articles constantly. And it's not allowed to refer to Swedish articles or study about our Norse languages. So, first of all, do not mix the results and the discussion. In the results, you only present facts, nothing else. You refer to authorities, you quote them, you never add any opinions, even if they are formally presented. I mean your personal opinions, of course. Like, look at this example where the student has made a mistake. Firstly, to use communication as a tool for exchanging information, whereas women focus on building and maintaining social affiliation. It seems like the student himself has drawn this conclusion, which is not true. It's Deborah Tannen. So if the student only had rephrased this sentence and referred to Deborah Tannen, there would not have been a problem. In the discussion part, this is where you discuss the meaning of the results, the importance and the relevance. So what do the results really mean? What are the implications? Why do they matter? Are there any limitations? What can the results not tell us? And are there any recommendations? That's personal. What practical actions or scientific studies should follow? And always use formal language. So avoid any, look here, example from another student, although outweighed by similarities in the way we communicate. Instead you could say people or humans. Furthermore, we tend to change our way of communicating. No, do not say we, say humans or people. It's more correct. Here are some other examples of errors in the results part. Here, after doing my research, I have come to a result. Or, on the points of which the dialects differ, etc., etc. According to who? Who has claimed this? It's the same thing here. The dialects also differ. And it's the same here when it comes to spelling and the differences between British English and American English. You always need to refer to a source, not yourself. So you could have written like this. A research made by Professor X shows that the most common differences in the syntax and grammar, blah, blah, blah. Or according to PhD A.K. Miller, the inflections began, blah blah. So do you see the difference? Remember, it's vital to only present facts and refer to sources in the results part. It's not allowed to begin discussing anything in the results part of a research project. So how then to write a discussion or conclusion? You cannot combine those titles. So you can write a discussion and you could add conclusion, or you simply write a discussion in the end. Here is quite a good discussion, and as I mentioned about the we, do not refer to we. Although outweighed by similarities in the way we communicate. It's what I mentioned before. But look down here. Evidently, the research indicates clear general differences. For instance, this suggests, according to Green here. So he's referring, or she, the student. And here is even better. The instance given by Lakoff through Anderson. Here is a really good discussion, because then you're weighing the different arguments towards one another. And here, you can see here, paragraph 2 refers to the study mentioned in paragraph 1. But how about paragraph 4? Further, the psychological and biological impacts of linguistics are apparent. According to who? We need to be careful there. Then we have a conclusion. If we have a conclusion number 5, then you're allowed to write without referring to any sources, if you would like. You just make a you draw a conclusion of it all. And the research question was, what are the major linguistic differences between men and women, their causes and effects? How significant is the relationship between linguistics, sociology, and psychology? Have a look at the conclusion again. Does the student find answer to all the fours? The interpretation? Yes. The implications? Vaguely. Because the student only says linguistic influences individuals as well as social groups. That's very vague. Does the student present any limitations? No. But the student has presented recommendations. The evident effects on linguistics implicate the necessity for further research in the field of study in question. So, 2.5 out of 4. Not bad. Down below is an example of what a research project can look like. And if you want to, you can stop here and there and have a look at this. Because I'm not going to go through it all. But as you can see, you have the structure, you have the introduction, the background, the aim, the methodology, and here you have the results part. And you can have a look at yourself because it's quite a good study. But you see, the student has forgotten to refer to authorities, and I have marked that with red for you to see what it should look like. And you have the conclusion and the references. So this is quite a good research project made by a student that you can use as a model. You don't have to copy it, just have a look at it and stop the video to learn more. What can you do when you study about linguistics? Well, it's the scientific study of human language. It entails comprehensive, systematic, objective, and precise analysis of all aspects of language. Could be both cognitive and social aspects of language, which means that you could study about English Pidgin or Creole, or how the brain processes multilingualism, and if social class affects the language, if the way newspapers describe climate change has changed the past 30 years. How is language used to describe stereotypes? Well, the language used in fake news and so forth. This is, you can, as long as you can find scholarly articles to base your research upon, it's possible to do this. But make sure that you don't focus on any thing that you find interesting and you make a research of your own, because that is not what you're supposed to do here. You're supposed to learn how to do it before you begin at the university. You start studying at the university. If you choose to study colonial versus post-colonial literature, you can see 2 examples. You're not supposed to read 2 novels or anything like that. You're only supposed to find extracts and to tell. How can you tell if a book is colonial? How can you tell if a book, the themes are post-colonial? You can see here it's often written, if you have colonial, often written from the perspective of the colonizer. It portrays colonization as a natural, unproblematic, often correct process. And they often portray indigenous people and culture savage or primitive. And the post-colonial literature, on the other hand, it's written from the perspective of the former colonized, and they discuss the problems and consequences of colonization and decolonization, and it attempts to describe indigenous people, places and practices to counteract the stereotypical images portrayed by the colonizers. So this can be a really interesting project, but you're not allowed, let's say that you read Things Fall Apart for your literary analysis, you're not supposed to do both here. Then you need to perhaps compare with another book, not another book, but an extract of a book. So some topics here. Typical questions. How does the literary text explicitly or allegorically represent various aspects of colonial oppression? Or what does the text reveal about the problematics of post-colonial identity, including the relationship between personal and cultural identity, and such issues as double consciousness and hybridity? What person or groups does the work identify as other or a stranger? How are they described? We have, cultural differences, and that could be really interesting. And here you can find lots of information for free online. There are even, on study.com, you even find some small films to learn more about this, and they are for free, so you don't have to pay. And as always use scholarly sources in English. You can find them on Scholar, google.com. You can find it on ResearchGate, of course, or you can find it on owl.purdue, that's a university in America. And please use academic style. That means do not say staff, boss, kids. You should avoid personal pronouns, no contractions like it's, going, isn't, and so forth. You can have a look at this and stop the video so you can learn. And I wish you the best of luck. I will of course give feedback when you hand in your research question, and also in assignment 4, so you can improve for assignment 5 and hand in an improved version. I wish you the best of luck.